The Golden State Warriors had a pretty odd year, as coming into the NBA season for the 2019-20 season, they did not have huge expectations, especially compared to previous years. However, those expectations were immediately shot down when Stephen Curry suffered a broken hand injury very early into the NBA season, and it would keep him out for a majority of the year. This would cause the Warriors to take an off year and from being contenders, and they'd end up being the worst team in the NBA record-wise. And of course, being the worst team in the NBA led them to getting a high draft pick, and that ended up being the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. And now they're in a very interesting spot, as they should be back to being contenders for the 2020-21 season with their core of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and more. Plus, they have the number 2 overall pick. So what do? Well, that's what I'm going to answer in today's video. But before we do get started, make sure you like today's video if you guys did enjoy, as it really helps out the channel. Also, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and you're a fan of the NFL or the NBA, as I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers and it would be greatly appreciated. We're not too far off, and the support lately has been amazing, and I really appreciate it. Also, when we reach 100 subscribers, I'll do a Q&A when we reach that goal. So guys, if you guys want to learn more about me, and you guys are a fan of the NFL or the NBA, and watch this content consistently, and you guys haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It would really mean the world to me. But with all that being said, though, you guys, let's just get this video started. And we're going to start today's video off by taking a look at this roster. And of course, we got to start out with Stephen Curry, who's a very, 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 very good offensive player and one of the best offensive players of all time. He's a great scorer, and he's one of the best, arguably the best shooter of all time, and he's also a very good playmaker. Now, I won't include any stats from this season because, well, he hardly played, so they won't look that impressive. But anyways, we all know how good Stephen Curry is. I think he won't be too hampered by this hand injury, as his game doesn't really rely too much on this doesn't really affect his athleticism, but I do expect him to be pretty good even after this injury. We saw him play a little bit after that in March, before the season got suspended, and he definitely looked okay, and I think he should still be one of the best players in the NBA, and we all know how good he is. And of course, we gotta talk about his fellow co-star in Klay Thompson, who's a very good two-way guard. He's a very good shooter, as he's probably the second best of all time. He's also a good scorer, and he's also a good defender, which really helps since Stephen Curry is not a good on-ball defender. Klay Thompson didn't play at all yet last year, as in the 2019 NBA Finals, in Game 6 of that series, he tore his ACL, and that would keep him out for the rest of the year. But Klay Thompson, as we all know, is still an amazing player, and I think Golden State is easily going to stay with this core of Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. But of course, we also got to talk about Draymond Green. Draymond Green has regressed quite a bit offensively. And while he has regressed a lot in general, he's still a very solid player, as he fits well in the Warriors system, as he's still a really good defender, rebounder, and playmaker. This year, he did not have the most impressive stats, as he averaged just 8 points per game, a block per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 6 assists per game. However, we all know how good of a player Draymond Green is. The Warriors system is functioning very well, as he's a great, really big part to this team with his veteran leadership, his defense, rebounding, and passing. But we all know how important Draymond Green is, and I think he should, if the Warriors are a good team, I think he should really fit their system, but I don't think he'll be the same all-star Draymond Green we once knew. But anyways, moving on, we also should talk about Andrew Wiggins, who isn't an absolute superstar. However, I do think he should be solid in Golden State, as he has a ton of shooters around him. He should stick to attacking the basket, and this past season, when he came over from Minnesota to Golden State, with Golden State, he averaged 19 points per game, 4 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game, shooting 46% from the field. I think Andrew Wiggins can be really solid for this team if he does stay, but we'll kind of get into that later. And of course, we should also talk about Eric Pascal, who was a rookie for this team, and he had a really good rookie season. He made an all-rookie team, and he can play power forward and small ball center. He's a good mid-range shooter and finisher, and he's pretty good at scoring the ball. He can be a good six-man for this team because he doesn't really fit with Draymond Green on the court. However, I do think Eric Pascal is a very good player. This past season, he averaged 14 points per game, 2 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game, shooting 50% from the field. And of course, we should also, I want to talk about Marquis Chris too, who's a nice traditional big and kind of revived his career with Golden State. Even if he isn't starting next year, I do think he would be a very nice backup center to this team, or he can play power forward. The guy is a nice traditional big, as I said before, as he can finish, rebound, and he's also a good defender. This past season, he averaged 9 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, a block per game, and shot 54.5% from the field. And of course, the final player I want to talk about is Damien Lee. Now, the Warriors had to call up many guys from the G League due to their lack of depth after Stephen Curry got injured. And some of those guys made a good name for themselves, and Damien Lee was one of those players. He's a good scorer, he's also a solid finisher and mid-range shooter, and he's also a good three-point shooter. This past season, he averaged 13 points per game, 3 assists per game, shooting 42% from the field and 36% from 3. Now, it's safe to say his role is definitely going to decrease, assuming everyone stays healthy on this Warriors team. However, I do think he'd be a nice bench player for this team, and I think he's probably going to make a name for himself as a great role player for this team. I do think Golden State might want to keep him because of how important he would be to their depth, which we'll talk about now. But with all that being said, that's all I really have to say about this roster. Now, this roster is pretty good, but there's no doubt it's not perfect. So what's the issue with this roster? Well, it lacks depth. The Golden State Warriors have some good talent with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. However, they don't have much depth, and that's important. Now, you don't need to be a crazy deep team like the Nuggets or the Heat, but you do need to have some depth, and I think the Warriors really need to improve on that. Now, they do have the number 2 overall pick, which they can use in a trade, and there have been heavy rumors of that, or they can draft someone with that pick, and personally, I think either would be fine. However, I do think Andrew Wiggins and the number 2 overall pick can be very important when it comes if they want to increase their depth with these trades, and that's going to bring us to these trades. And the first trade I have is the Warriors would get Aaron Gordon, Terrence Ross, and the Magic would get Andrew Wiggins and a second round pick. Overall, I do think this is a fine trade for both sides. Now, who knows about the fit with Aaron Gordon and Draymond Green? However, Golden State would not be a bad place for Aaron Gordon. Orlando's not a good fit for him as they really need him to be a shot creator because of their lack of offense and shot creation. However, Aaron Gordon on Golden State would be very nice. He's a good defensive player and he can act as a more, athletic Draymond Green. And I mean, funny enough, he'd actually be playing with Draymond Green in this proposed trade. However, I do think him on Golden State wouldn't be that bad, and Terrence Ross would also help with the depth on this team. And as for Andrew Wiggins, I do think he would be an alright piece on Orlando as he does provide some shot creation, and they also get a second round pick out of this. And for my second trade, it's the Warriors get Joel Embiid, while the 76ers get the number 2 overall pick, Andrew Wiggins, a 2022 first, and another first round pick. If you ask me, this is kind of big, as first off, I mean, of course, Joel Embiid is a very good player, but I do think this would be a nice trade for both sides. The 76ers would get the number 2 overall pick, which they can probably use for, probably a shot creating guard, but they can use it on a good prospect, which hopefully they hit on for the 76ers. The Warriors, meanwhile, might become the favorites with this trade as they get a big 3 of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Joel Embiid in this proposed trade. The 76ers also get Andrew Wiggins, and he can be nice depth, but whatever. But anyways, the Warriors would really like to do this trade as they get a 3rd star next to them, and Embiid, he would be great on Golden State as there's going to be a lot of floor spacing on him. Now, Draymond Green, he's going to have to become at least an average 3-point shooter and shoot at least 35% from 3 if they want to make sure things are good. But hey, I do think Golden State would be much better as he gets much better spacing and as he can be the dominant post player that he is. And of course, he fixes their center issues, which, I mean, throughout their entirety, even through the dynasty years, center was always their weakest position. But for the next trade I have, it's the Warriors get Jrue Holiday, while the Pelicans get Andrew Wiggins and 2021 Minnesota first. Now, in my Jrue Holiday trades video, which you guys can check out above, it's in the card above. I did not propose this trade. However, now that I think about it, it might not be that bad of a trade. Now, Klay Thompson would play small forward, and that's perfectly fine. He is big enough to do that. Jrue Holiday would be very nice to this team as he'd provide some playmaking, and he'd also be a good shot creator. Now, Andrew Wiggins on the Pelicans, well, he would probably have to be a 6th man, but the 2021 Minnesota first would also be very nice. If you ask me, this is actually an okay trade. Now, you might have to include maybe a 2nd round pick, but I do think this trade is pretty good for both sides, as the Pelicans can trade Jrue Holiday and get something pretty nice for him. Plus, the Warriors also get a nice shot creating guard who can also play make. And for the final trade I have, it's the Warriors get Jeremy Lamb and Miles Turner, while the Pacers get Andrew Wiggins, Eric Pascal, and the number 2 overall pick. And if you ask me, Miles Turner on the Warriors would be great. He could fit their style of play with his 3-point shooting, and he'd also provide great defense. And of course, Jeremy Lamb would also be a very good bench player for this team. Now, it does hurt to part ways with Eric Paschall, but I do think this might be worth it, considering the fact that they get Miles Turner, who's a very special player. The Pacers do this because it's clear Miles Turner's fit on the Pacers is not as good as it once was due to the emergence of Domantas Sabonis. Not only that, but the Pacers would get the number 2 overall pick, which they can use on, well, who knows what they'll use it on. Plus, Eric Paschall is a nice young player who can be a good, probably a 6th man on this team, or like some sort of bench player. Plus, they also get Andrew Wiggins, who they would probably use as a 6th man again. But I do think this is not that bad of a trade for either side, as the Pacers get the number 2 overall pick, plus the Warriors get Miles Turner. But with all those trades out of the way, what do I think the Warriors should do? If you ask me, I think the Warriors need to increase the depth on this team. And I want to make it clear, the Warriors should be back to contending next season. I mean, seriously, Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, you can never count them out. And if their system works perfectly fine, then I think Draymond Green could also be solid, especially if he can get his shooting ability back. And I think now that Kevin Durant's gone, I think everyone else is going to have to take a step offensively. And I think Draymond Green might go back to being a pretty, at least solid 3-point shooter. As I feel like when Kevin Durant was there, I feel like Draymond Green might have thought that, okay, there's enough scoring on this team. I really don't have to do much. I don't really have to do much offensively, and maybe that's why. But I'm not sure why his 3-point shot went away. But really, what the Warriors need to do is add depth. And if you ask me, I wouldn't be opposed to trading that pick at all. As while they might miss out on like some good prospect, this could help them contend for now. And of course, if they want to select someone, that's perfectly fine. But that's all I have to say. With all that being said, though, you guys, thank you guys for watching. It really means a lot to me. Make sure you like the video if you guys did enjoy, as it really helps out the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and you're a fan of the NFL or the NBA, as I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, and it would be greatly appreciated if we could reach that goal. As I said before in the beginning of the video, I will do Q&A when we reach 100 subscribers. So if you guys want to learn more about me, and you guys haven't subscribed already, and you're a fan of the NFL or the NBA, and you watch this content consistently, of course, make sure you guys subscribe. But with all that being said, though, you guys, well, I'm out.